Hello, and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host, Rob. In this video, I wanted to go through the new D&D One stuff that they've released for our expert classes. So this video is going to be our Bard video. It'll cover the Bard base stuff that they've given us and the only subclass they've given us so far, which is the College of Lore. So some of you are probably already aware of this stuff, but that's okay. I'm a little behind the curve, but I'm going to try to do multiple videos this week and get all these classes done so I'm not, too far behind, right? Anyways, we can just skip all the fluff stuff. For anybody who doesn't know, I'll try not to move the cursor crazy and act like an idiot. As you can see at the top there, hopefully, it says class group. Wizards has decided to group different people by general categories. So Bard is expert class, along with Rogue and Ranger. Basically, anybody gets expertise. And apparently the Artificer is also going to be in the expert class. Then you've got like your Warrior class, which is Fighter, Monk, Barbarian. Our Priest class, which is Cleric, Druid, and Paladin. And then finally you've got the Mage class, which is your Wizard, Sorcerer, and Warlock. So Bard is in the expert class, having expertise and being more of the skills type classes, apparently. Anyways, I wanted to quickly go over the table. I've also got my player's handbook ready as well, so we can kind of compare to how things are currently versus these proposed changes. And don't forget, this is just a UA stuff. These are proposed ideas that are still subject to change. Basically, going to our next D&D One, which is essentially 5.5 or 6th edition or whatever we want to call it, right? So one thing I noticed fairly early on here, which is that some of the stuff has been moved around. We'll get into that more specifically. Also, our spell casting is mostly the same, but if we look right up here, it says prepared spells per level. So number one, all the classes, as far as we've seen so far, seem to be moving towards prepared spells instead of spells known, right? So before you had wizards with prepared spells, for example, but a lot of classes had spells known, and prepared spells is generally better because it allowed you to switch your spells out, right? So it looks like they're all going that way. However, also notice that it says prepared spells per spell level. So before, let's say you were, just as an example, a level 20 bard, right? You could have, say, 2 or 3 different 8th or 9th level spells prepared, right? Like maybe you're like, okay, well, I'm going to have this one in case of this and this one in case of that, right? Whereas now, if we look down here, you have 1 prepared spell per spell level. So you have only that one spell that you've prepared is the only thing you could use. Now, granted, you might have magical secrets or whatever else, right? But I'm talking in general here, not about Bard specifically. So, I'm not as fond of that, but, we'll see. Going forward, it might not be a big deal. Who knows? Anyways, they've got some stuff on Bard. The hit dice are staying the same. We're still going to be using Dexterity and Charisma. The skills, they recommend 3: Deception, Performance, Persuasion. All decent choices. But you can still choose any 3 of your choice. So I like that. The weapons. We now only have simple weapons. Bards used to have like rapiers, long sword, short sword, hand crossbow, some other options as well. Those do not appear to be Bard of the Bard. I'm assuming that when we get things like Valor and maybe College of Swords, when it finally comes out, that maybe those subclasses will give us a wider range of weapons again. But I don't know that they'll get full martials even in those cases. Who knows? Anyways, you get 3 musical instruments, your light armor, etc., right? So multi-classing is basically going to be the same. You need at least 13 charisma in order to multi-class in or out. You got your armor training, and you got your spell slots. Most of that stays mostly the same, right? Anyways, getting on to the class features. Level 1, our Bardic Inspiration. There have been some changes. So you start as a D6, that's, same as usual, and it still scales much the way it did before, as we probably saw on the chart up here, right? Our Bardic die do increase. But now, so you can boost a D20 test. When another creature within 60 feet that you can see or hear fails a D20 test, you can use your reaction to give the creature a Bardic Inspiration die. So number one, it is using your reaction. Before you had to like give them out in advance. Now that's not really an option. And I think this is kind of a good and bad thing. The good part is that it's much more likely people are always going to be using it because half the time you'd hand out your inspiration before and people would forget it. Or you're just a terrible bard and you'd forget to hand it out. I put myself in that category sometimes, right? Whereas, if somebody fails a test, you'd be like, oh, hey, I can give you inspiration, and potentially turn that failure into a success. They also have a second option here of heal. Immediately after another creature within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear takes damage, you can use your reaction to roll your Bardic Inspiration die and restore a number of hit points to the creature equal to the number rolled. I want to point out that on both of these, it is a little weird that you have to be able to see or hear them. They don't have to see or hear you. So I don't know how you're inspiring them with your music if they can't hear you or see you, or with your charming presence if they can't see or hear you. It does feel like that's a little backwards maybe, but whatever, who cares. I do like this use especially because it's not using a spell and it's not using your action, right? So before you might have to use you cast a spell to heal somebody, or maybe it's a bonus action like healing word or whatever, right? But now it's just your reaction, which means that you should be able to bring them up instantly if they take damage to go down, right? Which is pretty nice. Your Bardic Inspiration, expended when it's used, blah, blah, blah. And now it's based on your proficiency bonus, which, regains it all in a long rest. More and more stuff in this UA seems to be moving towards proficiency bonuses uses per long rest. And less based on, like, say, stat mods or whatever, right? Charisma mod, strength, con, whatever, right? Anyways, it talks about scaling. We already know about that. Prepared spells. They recommend some, which, are probably best ignored and just choose your own. So here's one thing I think is interesting. It says that any spell you prepare for this class must be an arcane spell. So for anybody who isn't aware, one thing Wizards is looking to do is to move magic into three broad categories. We're going to have arcane, we're going to have divine, and we're going to have primal. And we'll still have, our different schools like evocation, divination, enchantment, whatever, right? But we're going to have those three broad categories. So Bard, you'll choose your spells from the arcane school. And it says it must be from one of the following schools of magic: divination, enchantment, illusion, or transmutation. So just to go on another tangent here, I was a little worried when I first heard that they were moving things to three broad general lists, because one thing about Wizard is that Wizards always had this really great spell list. And I was like, man, if anybody can just choose arcane spells, then what's kind of the draw of being a wizard anymore? But I think this was a very elegant solution where bards are going to still draw from the same list, but they're limited to those four schools. And then I would assume that wizards, of course, are probably not limited to any of them. Or maybe they'll go back to some previous editions where you have like an opposing school and you can't take from that one or whatever, right? But for the most part, I would assume that wizards will be able to choose from any of the schools within the arcane spell list. Bards are limited to these four. Notice that bards do not have healing magic anywhere on this list. But, we can just look over here and realize that there's going to be something coming up that we'll get to in a minute, right? So, you can, change your spells out with a long rest, just like all prepared spells. You got spell slots, spell casting ability, still charisma. You can still use your musical instrument, blah, blah, blah. Second level, expertise. So you gain expertise in two proficiencies of your choice. They recommend a couple, but you can choose any. You also get Songs of Restoration. So, Song of Rest looks like it's going to be going away, which is, it's okay. I mean, I always thought Song of Rest was nice, but it was really not particularly game-changing, right? You had to spend hit dice to heal with it anyways, and if you're spending like 6 hit dice to heal after a particularly tough fight, getting an extra D8 on top of that is nice, but, hardly game-changing, right? Now, though, you're going to be getting different spells depending on what level of bard you are. And, so there's a list right there. And I think this is a very elegant solution as well, actually. I quite like this, where bards is still limited to your arcane spells. They can't choose from the, from the divine spell tree, but these ones are all going to just be added to your list. They count as being always prepared and don't count against the number of spells you can prepare. So I actually think that's a great solution. I like that a lot. Anyways, subclass. In this case, you get the College of Lore subclass or another Bard subclass of your choice, but College of Lore is the only one they've detailed so far, right? Level 4, you gain a feat, so you can choose an ability score improvement feat or another feat of your choice. And this is, they're changing ability score increases to just being a feat. So now feats, it doesn't sound like they're going to be optional at all, whereas before they were an optional rule, right? And now you can choose any feat, which could, of course, be the ability score improvement feat, right? All the feats are going to be level gated, though, so there is that to remember as well. We don't know what all the feat levels are going to be yet, or at least I don't know. I think they might have released that already. I just haven't looked at it yet. Anyways, that's kind of where we are, right? So you're going to get a feat choice, which could be an ASI or could be whatever else. Level 5, Jack of all trades. So notice that this used to be a second level ability and has been moved to 5. That's clearly worse. There's also another thing, though. So you can add half your proficiency bonus round down to any ability check you can make that uses a skill proficiency you lack and that doesn't otherwise use your proficiency bonus. So for example, you can make a strength check, use athletics, blah, 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 right? The difference here, though, is that it didn't used to be tied to needing a skill proficiency. It was just anytime you made an ability check. So things like initiative, casting counter spell, these things were all ability checks that you could use Jack of all trades on. But now it looks like it's going to have to be linked to a skill proficiency that you don't already have, right? But there is no skill proficiency for initiative. There's no skill proficiency for counterspell, right? Unless they tie it to Arcana or something. But as of now, there's nothing like that. So not only has Jack of all trades been moved back to a higher level, it's also just straight up worse. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a great ability. But it's just worse than it was. Anyways, level 6, you get a subclass feature. Level 7, you get Font of Bardic Inspiration. This used to be at level 5, so it's been moved back as well. But it has been improved. We'll get to that in the second paragraph. So you now gain all your expended Bardic Inspiration whenever you finish a short rest or a long rest. That's the same. But in addition, if a creature rolls your Bardic Inspiration die and gets a 1 after any rerolls you might have, that use your Bardic Inspiration isn't expended. So I like that a lot. I give somebody Bardic Inspiration, they roll a 1, they still get that 1, but I don't have to use my Bardic Inspiration. It does not get wasted because that guy sucks. And he doesn't always suck, you know what I mean? It was just a bad dice roll. But you get what I'm saying. So this is something I like a lot more, right? Unlike, say, the Jack of all trades, where, we moved it back and made it worse. We moved Font of Bardic Inspiration back, but we also gave it something as well, which, helps to balance it out, right? So I like that. And I think part of this, a lot of this reshuffling, does seem to be an effort to avoid dead levels, where basically every level you're getting something. That doesn't quite hold true. As we can see here, there's nothing at 13th level, and I believe there's nothing at 17th level, yeah. Although to be fair, you're getting, 13th level, you're getting 7th level spells. Here you're getting 9th level spells. So it's not like you're not getting anything, but you're not getting a class ability, right? Anyways, level 8, you're getting another feat, right? Or an ASI, which is now a feat, of course. Level 9, expertise. Level 10, subclass feature. So this used to be a magical secret, of course. We no longer get them at 10. We now get them right here at 11. But we never used to get a Bard subclass feature at 10. We only used to get it at 14. So that was a long stretch to go. And I kind of like the fact that now there's going to be a level 10 ability there, right? So 11th level, magical secrets. So you choose a spell list of arcane, divine, or primal. Whenever you prepare spells for this class, up to 2 of the spells you prepare can be from the chosen list and from any school of magic. The prepared spells otherwise follow the rules for your Bard spell casting feature. So this I like quite a bit, because before you were limited to like the spell level, right? One thing to note here, though, is that it can actually scale with you, because so like in the case of an 11th level Bard, you've got 6 or lower level spells, right? So before you'd get it at 10th, so you were limited to level 5. So you could choose 2 spells, level 5 or lower, and those were your spells, right? So now not only can you change them out, but it also means that as you level up, let's say you hit 17, right? And now you have 9th level spells available. Well, when you rest, you can change out the spells for anything that is from that same chosen list from any school of magic. So you could still, get Wish with your 11th level magical secrets once you're high enough to cast it, just as an example, right? Which I think is an interesting change. I also like the fact that it's just more flexible now and you can change out the spells. So that's a great thing. Like one example would be I often took Find Greater Steed, right, from the Paladin spell list. Excellent spell, and riding around on a Griffin or a Pegasus is just kind of cool, right? But the problem is that if your steed isn't dying ever, you've just got Find Greater Steed permanently there, and you're not recasting it because your mount isn't dying. Now, granted, that's good that your mount isn't dying, but now you could cast it, and then you're like, oh, my mount's still alive, so tomorrow I'm just going to prepare a different spell. And if he dies, then I'll, swap it out, prepare it again, and cast it again, or whatever, right? So now you've got those kind of options, which didn't really exist before. Anyways, 12 feet. 14, subclass feature. 15, further magical secrets. Choose a spell list, arcane, divine, or primal that you didn't choose for your magical secrets feature. Whenever you prepare your bard spells, 2 of the spells you prepare can be from the chosen list and from any school of magic. The prepared spells otherwise follow blah blah. So, interesting to note that they just can't be from the same list you chose before, right? Now, like I said, you don't have to worry about I chose Divine the first time. Now I'm screwed because I can't get whatever spell. No, because as you level up, you can just change those out for other Arcane ones or Divine ones or whatever the same one was, right? It's just that these 2 now have to be from a different school than the previous 2. So you couldn't choose 4 Arcane or 4 Divine, right? Or 4 Primal. Anyways, 16, another feat. 18, Superior Bardic Inspiration. Now this used to be our level 20 ability, but it appears that all the level 20 capstones have, at least as we've seen, have been moved to 18, and at 20 we get new capstones, which are epic boons, which were available in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but, A, your campaign had to get the 20, and B, I don't know how many people have actually read the Dungeon Master's Guide to look at the boons. The boons are superbly balanced, let me say. Very, very good job on that, Wizards. Yeah, no discrepancy in power between boons at all. Don't worry about it. So hopefully that'll be better this time around. What a gong show. Anyways, so when you roll initiative, you regain 2 expanded uses of your Bardic Inspiration. Alright, level 19, feat, still the same. Level 20, we get our Epic Boon. It says you can take the Epic Boon of Luck feat or another Epic Boon feat of your choice, which is good. Like, say, maybe getting a second 9th level spell slot. Just throwing that out there. Anyways, prepared bard spells. They give you a recommended list. I don't know how much faith they'd put in that. I haven't bothered to look it over that much. We can probably choose our own and probably be happier. Anyways, College of Lore. So, once again, we'll just skip the fluff. Go straight here. Bonus proficiencies. So we used to just get 3 skills of our choice. We now get Arcana, History, and Nature. If you already have one of these proficiencies, choose a skill proficiency you lack and gain that proficiency. So this is not as good, but it's still pretty good, right? It's just, now you're limited to those 3, and if you already have one, you can get a different one. But, that's clearly not as good as just choose any 3 from the entire game. Cutting words. It's mostly the same. Creature that you can see within 60 feet of yourself succeeds on an ability check or an attack roll. You can use your reaction, expend one of your uses of Bardic Inspiration, rolling the Bardic Inspiration die and subtracting the number from the creature's roll, potentially turning it into a failure. So, great ability. Level 6, Cunning Inspiration. This is a really, really good ability. But we used to get magical secrets, which was just better. Now, I have heard, the person who first told me that bards were losing their magical secrets here for College Lore, he actually liked it, and I do think he makes a good point. His complaint was that he was sick and tired of lore bards, or bards in general, just stealing all the best paladin and ranger spells, way earlier in levels than paladins and rangers themselves could get the spells, right? And I do think that that is a legitimate complaint. You don't really want, like when your bards, to use the previous example, are flying around on a Pegasus and the paladin can't get a Pegasus yet, even though it's a paladin spell. That does hurt a little bit as a paladin, But whatever. Anyway, so 3 studies in Cunning, you've learned to inspire others exceptionally well. When any creature rolls your Bardic Inspiration die, that creature can roll the die twice and use the higher of the 2. So basically, it's like advantage for your Bardic Inspiration, right? So like I said, that's a fine ability. Nothing wrong with that. But Magical Secrets was clearly better. Also note, we used to have 3 rounds of Magical Secrets on Bards, right? There were other Magical Secrets they used to come at 10, 14, and 18. Now they're only getting 11 and 15, but you can change them out, which I think is probably still generally better. But you are going from 6 Magical Secrets to 4. But now lore bards, not getting 2 extra Magical Secrets, are going from what used to be 8 to 4. And, oh man, that kind of hurts a little bit. Anyways, moving on. Level 10, Improved Cutting Words. Whenever you use your Cutting Words feature on a creature, you can deal psychic damage to that creature equal to the number rolled on the Bardic Inspiration die plus your Charisma modifier. So that's not a particularly large amount of damage. But it's worth pointing out that Bards didn't used to have a level 10 subclass feature. So, this is better than nothing. And at least Cutting Words is an ability you'll probably use quite a bit. And, just being able to add a bit of damage to that isn't the worst thing ever. I'm still kind of ambivalent about it. But, it could have been worse. Anyways, level 14, Peerless Skill. When you make an ability check and fail, you can expand 1 use of your Bardic Inspiration, roll the Bardic Inspiration die, and add the number rolled to the ability check, potentially turning it into a success. That part is still the same. However, this last sentence is not. If the check still fails, the Bardic Inspiration isn't expended. And I like that a lot. So, you use your Peerless Skill, you roll a 1, and you're like, and it's like, oh wait, guess what? If the check fails, I didn't waste my Bardic Inspiration. Like, okay, that's pretty good. Although, it's unfortunate your Cunning Inspiration doesn't work on your own stuff, because it only says you've learned to inspire others exceptionally well. Although, I don't know, it says when any creature rolls your Bardic Inspiration die. I mean, that could be you. I don't know. It does say other, though, so who knows. That one could be rough. Anyways, that basically sums things up. I guess if I wanted to wrap up the video, I'll give some brief ideas on my thoughts on it and stuff. And I do think that some of the changes are clearly better. Some of them, like the Jack of all trades change, I'm not a huge fan of. In general, I like the changes to Magical Secrets. I think that that's probably better. The Lore Bard specifically, though, losing out on a couple extra Magical Secrets does kind of suck. So, I feel like Lore Bards probably are slightly worse off than they were before. But Bards in general, I feel, are probably going to be in a pretty good place. It'll be interesting to see, this isn't Bard specific, but if we go back here and we look at just in general, like Jack of all trades being moved to 5th level, as somebody who does spend a lot of time multiclassing and really enjoys multiclassing, I would not be surprised to see Wizards start trying to move a lot of these really good front-loaded abilities to higher levels, like Jack of all trades from 2nd to 5th, right? Like, will Action Surge remain a 2nd level ability? I have no idea, but I kind of doubt it. I think they want to try to encourage people to play one class more, but still keep multi-classing viable as well, which I actually agree with, right? I do think that if we look at the structure of the game right now, as much as I enjoy multi-classing, it probably is a little too powerful. There's not really a lot of reasons to play a class all the way from 1 to 20. And that does kind of suck. Like, there should be reasons why you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I will play this class all the way straight through. That should be a strong option, But also, multi-classing should also be a strong option. And I think that one thing they might want to do, but it looks like, at least, maybe I'm overreacting to the Jack of all trades move, right? But I wouldn't be surprised to see them do that with a lot of these types of abilities, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Hex Blades attacking with Charisma gets moved to, 3 or 5 or whatever, right? Again, because, I don't know if they really want a 1 Hexblade 19 Paladin, Maybe they're like, hey, we want you to take a bigger investment there, not just take one level of the class. But, to me, I kind of want it to all be viable. So I do think that in the current game environment, multi-classing might actually be too good, which does kind of pain me to say a little bit. But I don't want it to swing the other way either, where multi-classing is just gimping your character and making you objectively worse either, right? I want more viable builds, not less, I guess would be my concern. And, like I said, we'll see how things go. We've only seen 3 classes so far. This is just my look at the first one. But it is something that I am a little concerned about. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the Bard and the College of Lore specifically. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and most importantly, leave me your comments in the comments section. I read every single comment I get. And I'm hoping to do a bunch of these videos this week and try to, just kind of cover all the stuff that Wizards has so far released for the classes. And then try to get, once I'm caught up on that, then I can hopefully make videos as, more and more of the UA stuff is getting released for us to test out and give our feedback on. All right. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.